first of all, I want to run through a thing that you guys do, and you do it so well, and I just want to say I'm very appreciative of it, and I'm always humbled when I'm in front of my peers by the work and efforts that you guys do. So thank you. I want to run through this very quickly. It's just it's a group of Swedish kids is what it is, and through their training. And I like what the picture said. I like what Mike did with all the work that he's done with this, but also what he just went through with you. And it's the black eye of our sport sometimes, you know. And this is not that. And this group gets it, and they travel, and they do a lot of great things for their kids, and they teach them basic skills, and they're learning. And what I want to pass on to you from U.S. Greco is that we need you. We need you to do some of this, to get your kids upside down, to get them to where they're going to see challenges. And look at that look in his eyes. You know, that question that just came up, you know, is he, am I up for this challenge? Yeah, you can do this. Here's the rope. Go, you know. And so those are the things. We learn when we're young. Are we hurt? Are we injured? Or is this an alley? You know? And a lot of it, those first coaches that get a hold of those kids, they're the ones that decide whether those kids become that, what Coach Frazier talked about today, right? So, you know, one of the things I love about our sport is you get hurt and they walk out and go, you're on clock. I mean, it is not like anything else, is there? And other sports don't do that. And we come out and we put a kid on a clock and go, are you going to get up or not? So our sport teaches things that you just can't find anywhere else. Learn to imitate action, focus up, you know. I think what these kids are doing and how they're learning to get in contact, what Coach Lindman wants kids around America to be doing, to bring those hips in like you talked about this morning to you. One of the things that we're working really hard on are falls. One of the things that we came out with from the video of the 3 World Championships we've been to so far, and we got one more to go to Poland here in about 3 weeks together. So right now, one of the things that I see is that we unfortunately are letting people off their back. So one of the things we're going to work pretty hard on is pin and fall work. And when I was a high school coach, we worked on this every fall, and we called it fall work because every day we walked in and we just did pin drills. We just got people down and said, get off your back now. And then we also taught how to get off your back. So it's just a great time to do it. But one of the things that keeps coming up, I know the question of one of the coaches shot to Kamal today, are you having fun? Well, first of all, we need to define that word a little bit, don't we, sometimes? I don't know that fun is what they consider fun outside the room, but I think that it comes down to are you optimally challenged? I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Partner work. You know, this is a great time for young people to learn partner work, but they got to learn how to treat their partners. You know, a man that's made a huge difference in my career, my life, my basically everything, right up here with Mike Haggerty, and we've been at the hip, it seems like, most of our life. So I'm very fortunate to have had someone that was kind of like that older brother, because he's much older than I am, and that guy be there. But what I learned about partnerships, really good partnerships, and through that, hopefully I've tried to instill that in some of my athletes that I've had the honor to be with, to say, these are the people that's going to change your life, so figure it out. You'll stand up with them at their wedding day and on the most important days, and you'll go easy sometimes. And we lose about 2 to 3 seconds where we got to try to get back out of the problem that we created. And we got to fix that. Establish your pathway. Figure out your ties. The first 3 ties we're working on is just what he talked about today and what almost everybody's talked about. 2-on-1, underhook, you know, and a front head hold. And those 3, and once you develop pathways off that, one of the things we're looking at is if this is the move, the 2-on-1, there's 4 ways into it, and there's 4 ways out of it. Now you got a combination of 16. Now you've got universal wrestling, your total wrestling now, so that's good. Recover. Working on recovery, immediate recovery. One of the things we're working pretty hard on with our 130 kilo guys is get back up off the mat. When you hit the mat, let's get ourselves back up. Let's respond to it quicker. And those are things that can be done. I love this face on this kid. He's learning the body lock. He wants to get tight. He just doesn't know, but he's trying. And so a lot of that part. I love this picture. I love all these pictures, but I like what is happening here because, it's like my granddaughter. she's amazed with so many things. We walk outside one night, she looks up and she goes, Grandpa, moon. I go, that's an awesome moon, isn't it? She goes, crescent. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. So, but at the same point in time, she's in this wonderment and amazement, and sometimes I wonder what we do. And I think that's what Coach Clayton was talking about today, about let's not be the purveyors of doom that takes that away from those kids. Because the kid I like in this picture is this kid. Because if we had kids that was standing off on the wall sometimes waiting for their turn, and they were like this, I know that myself and Coach Lynn would love that. Okay? So focus up when it's not your time. Technique, fall technique, landing, tumbling, these kind of things. So drop, spin, hostage work. We've been working pretty hard on that. Parterre, this is what separates, one of my opinions is, this is what separates Americans from foreigners. This is one of the reasons why Coach Lennon is trying to get so many guys over into Europe. We're going to try to get 12 age group teams to Europe this summer. A couple of you are in this room that I've recruited to take kids places so for this next summer, and we're looking forward to that. Hip toss drive, cartwheel work. You know, this young man has already hit the cartwheel, and now he's running back into him. And I just love head up, butt down, hands low, hips and elbows tight. I mean, his form, his position, it's all sitting there. And some coach is going to get really lucky that gets him. Okay? So hopefully that we're passing it on to the next one, that we're not the last one that coaches that kid. So, but we've got to set some measurements for success too as we go through this. So I want you to take a look at that. Are your goals measurable with your student athletes? So, you know, stand your ground, cooperate. I think there's so many ways they have to do that. Energy management, teaching kids patience. We're dealing with that with many of our residents now. I think that half the talks that Coach Lindland's had in the office this week has been about this. About we've got an injury, we want back in because we know that we're in the second year of the quad right now for Tokyo. What's that look like, right? Well, they're hungry, they're at the bit, they want to go. But if we go too soon, then we cost them, we know that. So that takes a little bit more to do. Sharing training information. You know, sitting down watching video. I know that I had an athlete today that I hope to get a little time with Coach Haggerty running back up the airport on Sunday. On Sunday night I'm coming back. I'm going to work at Air Force on my way back, and then Mike Rogers and I are going to go through some video. So hopefully we're continuing that pace too and getting with our kids at different times. I think that's important. I think learning to stand ground. I love pictures where it looks like they're organized. They got this, but look at the smiles, and the smiles are genuine, except the two adults. I don't know what's going on there, but the kids were having fun, right? So, you know, I've kicked kids out of pictures here of late in my last 5-10 years of my career. One morning we get up and we go over to Cutter Mountain and go up Cutter Mountain one morning during Coach's 2020 camp. It's something I've done every year that I've been out here with our athletes. And we run up Cutter Mountain, and it's 6 a.m. in the morning. The sun's coming up. You're down looking into the city. You're on top of a mountain at 6 a.m. The sun's coming up, and all the kids drop down. They're all happy, and you know they've got that Steve Frazier, I just went through a hard workout look on him, and it's awesome. Then I got one kid, he's standing there going, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And I go, give me a smile. I give him one chance, he doesn't give me a smile. I said, get out of the picture. You're not ruining my picture. Okay, it's my picture, I'm taking it. After I'm done, you can get your camera out and do all the attitude you want, but I got no time for it. So, and we did that in Athens, didn't we, Coach? So you're laughing at our work. I was like, hey, I'm telling you right now, you got one shot at this. So, hey, you know, the other thing is that one of the things that Coach Lynn wants us to do is get here and fight, but then at some point get upright and learn how to defend yourself upright, stand upright, get the job done upright. And danger close, wrestle in a phone booth. I love that concept. It's tight, stay in there tight. So, wrestle in, not out. One of the biggest things he keeps pushing. So we want to do that. You know, the Chinese say, may you live in exciting times. We're in exciting times. They've limited the Olympics to 16 now, if you knew that. 16 spots. Make an Olympic team now. Here we go. So every day I wake up with that thought in my head. Tokyo is here. It's here right now for me. And what I'm doing, I'm super excited, so I'm gonna throw a disclaimer. I'm going to throw some ideas at you tonight, okay? But don't ever think I don't love my job, because I love my job, okay? So, this was a misnomer, you know that. Danger and opportunity does not mean crisis, but we'll play with it because Kennedy said it and it sounds good. So, it's a great thought. When I see people that get that tattooed, I'm like, dude, it's not even right, you know? So, but, you know, it is amazing, though, when you think about that some of the funnest times we have is when we take great risk. So how do we get our kids to take greater risk? You know what I mean? Take great risk. One of the great risks that we're doing that's super exciting, and I know that we've got the leader of that right now. Laura, where you at? Conway? There. You know, she's working on an EAP program for us right now that we're super excited about. I know all ends of it are because we're going to bring high school students out. And the last few times we've done that, you know, like Kyle Snyder and Jacob Casper, I mean, those guys did all right, you know. So if you come out here and you spend a year and it's that time, so if you've got any questions on that, I'll answer any of them, but while you got her here, she's got all the answers. So that's kind of the neat thing we can do. But a risk model, and one of the things I'm going to talk about a lot is risk, is getting kids to take these risks. I don't think there's anything greater in life almost. You know, birth my children, all those things are up there. But after that, grabbing another human while they don't want to be thrown and throwing them over your head, that's pretty cool stuff. Okay? So our sport is beautiful, and it takes another gear to get that done. But so I hope that works well. If that was the appetizer, let's get to the entree. As we're running down some of these things, I want to show one thing to you. These two documents here. These are just. This is how I formulate things in my head. A lot of times, Coach Matt and myself, we will talk after practice or whatever, and then I'll write stuff down. These are from, I put these more back towards you guys for high school. This is from my high school notes. I was fortunate enough to work with a man for 9 years that coached me when I was in 7th grade. And I think he's forgotten more about wrestling than most of us know. And so, he was my, every night around 10:30 I would put my headset on, and then I'd call him, and he'd tell me how my practice was. He'd give me a report card on my practice every day. If you have an opportunity to bring somebody back into our sport that's 65 and knows our sport inside and out and probably pees more knowledge than most people have, and he does, that man would tell me every night, you robbed Peter to pay Paul. What you did on top was great tonight, Coach, but I think we took too long. Write that down. I would sit with my computer and I typed out 38 pages of single-spaced 10 font over the course of a season, talking to him every night. And then what I would do is break down the things that I kept seeing over and over again. And on Sundays, I had the opportunity to catch a flight and go referee a Big Ten match. I'd have 1 page of notes on how I could become a better official, and then 1 page of notes on what I could bring back to the team on Monday. And so, if you kept seeing these themes, then I wrote the themes down, and then we worked off of these themes. So I would encourage you, this is a top and a neutral, top and a neutral. So, just food for thought as we get close to the season, kind of look back at what happened last year, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more on what I think.
Can we get those?
I'm sorry?
What you just had up there?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give him the mic.
I can put it in the Dropbox.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm no longer taking on all these guys now, so I'm okay with that. I'm done with leg grabbing, so I'm all right. You know, I said all my life that there would come a day where all I would do is Greco-Roman wrestling every day. And so retiring from NCAAs, I refereed through 35 years and taught 34 years, and I loved all that. But, you know, now I got one focus. Every morning I wake up, and every night I go to bed, so it's pretty neat. Paris. Whew. I'm hurting, Matt. I'm still hurting. But, you know, it's painful, but this is the thing that, you know, you've got to look it in the eye and go, all right, here we go. And so hopefully we learned some pretty hard lessons. Now it's a matter of whether we're going to make change. You know, that's what we got to do. And so we speak every day, not about change, but shifting. Just shifting. We're just going to shift a little bit. So this city is beautiful, but it's pretty brutal too. So it was for us. And so at the end of the day, my point is this. Coach and I sat down, we looked at it and go, okay, how do we evaluate this? And I just kept looking at video and everything else, and I'm like, I don't know that we have a starting point with what we're evaluating. I just really don't. So what I did was I flipped the coin then. Then I started evaluating every match of every finalist. So every match he went through of every finalist, and I'll show you a chart. I don't have it done yet, so I'm going to show you a mock-up right now of what we're doing with this. But anyway, we're looking and we're charting all that, and then we're saying, all right, this is what we're not getting done, then this is where we want to go. So how do we do that? Well, let's figure out what we got to do. And what that's going to require is it's going to require us to learn new skills that we don't even know that's there yet. Okay? So I'm going to show you and talk about that. So if we're going to climb, we're going to need climbing tools. And right now, our Coach Linlin and the team's going up tomorrow up the mountain, up Pikes Peak. So it's a good time to talk about this right now. And so what tools will we need to climb? Fortunately, we won't need these. Now, you guys need snowshoes, Coach, and a few other things like that. You need those little ice, right?
Always learn.
And so, this is Pikes Peak. Pretty awesome, right? Every morning I wake up, where Mike has his house, I wake up and look out on that mountain and on the way in, and half the time I'm calling my wife on the way to practice, and because they're still back in Kansas City, and I'm like, man, this is so beautiful. And she goes, shut up. You know, I'm driving down off Broadway right now in Kansas City, so it's very pretty. I want to tell you, though, the mountain's named after Zebulon Pike, right? The guy never made it to the top. Okay? He starts up the mountain, gets there, gets hit with snow. It's November 17th, 1806, and he's in trouble. So here it goes. It's 9 above, and then it goes to 4 below. There's no vegetation up above there. They didn't know that. But here's the real problem. When he got here, he's one of those first guys on the Zebulon Pike expedition. Same kind of deal that Lewis and Clark did, right? Jefferson sent a bunch of people out to go find stuff. They found that mountain. They walked up on it and went, wow. So he estimates the mountain is somewhere over 9,000, but probably under 10,000. That's his estimation. Now, nobody's been up that high. That he certainly hadn't been. So he looks at it and goes, that's about 9,000 feet. Now, didn't know anything about, well, there's a tree line, and that's above tree line, that kind of stuff. He didn't know that. So he takes his men, they start hiking up. And what we've done for the last couple of weeks is we've monitored what the temperature is on top of the mountain. Because that's what we've got to send our athletes to tomorrow. So now, he didn't do that. He didn't have that resource. And there was no cog railway for him. So he took off up the mountain, and he ran into trouble. Almost everything that we're going to do that's big is going to be a lot harder than we thought it was going to be, right? So that's pretty typical. But I think we're looking at Pikes Peak, but we're trying to climb Everest. And that's what we've got to stop doing. Because we're going to have to learn new skill sets that we don't know yet to make this happen to where we come to a world level, a world medalist level, I should say, and what they've done to get themselves through the tournament. So, I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. This here, again, just under 4,500 different people have summited Everest. They've done it 7,600 times. So, a lot of people have climbed it more than once. The Sherpas have climbed it 16 to 25 times, okay? So, they're awesome. 282 people, and this was a couple weeks ago, so maybe somebody's gone since then, unfortunately, but that's a fairly raw number. That's a mountain. Okay, that's a mountain. So, you got to have a plan to go up a mountain like that. And this is one thing. And so one of the things that Coach Lennon and I are doing is we are putting down things like, he talked to you today about base camp. Base camp in January, here we go. Then we're going to start working up the mountain, and we're going to go to Europe to do a lot of these. And we're going to have base camp, and then we're going to... And I don't know what the Kimbu ice fall is going to be yet. I don't know if we're going to do something really nasty and ugly, or I don't know what we're going to do. But we're still working on that one. But then we're going to go to camp after camp after camp. We're going to try to put ourselves in Europe and put ourselves in spots where we can compete over these next 3 years harder. So, the journey to Everest, going to be pretty bad, pretty tough. Again, there's multiple ways up the mountain. 2 big ones. One from Tibet, the other one on the China side. So, you've got to figure that out. Now, you see that gray mass in front of that? That's Pikes Peak by scale. So this is Pikes Peak, okay, if you follow this track up here. Here he goes. And then that's Everest. So we're going to have to do an awful lot of different things. What is the difference between climbing Pikes Peak and climbing Everest? Give me some of them. Oxygen bottles. We don't need oxygen to go up there. They say right now, 100 people go up it a day? They hike it up, something like that, during key times of the year. The record for that at one time was 60 on one day. Okay? So there's nothing close to that. All right? You're going to have to tent. You're going to have to go get acclimated. On average, it costs around $65,000 to make this trip. We have to raise money with our athletes. We've got athletes right now. We're trying to get into 4 different places. Belarus, St. Petersburg, Poland, Finland, Iran. So I'm missing a couple there. But that's all that's going to happen here in the next 6 weeks for us. We're getting visas, everything else. Coach was up at Passport yesterday, getting visas and passports for people. And we've got to figure out how to tent in the cold. We're going to have to change what we're doing because we're not climbing Pikes Peak. Okay? So we've already talked about the oxygen debt problem. One of the things that we've looked at already on video is that we got 6 minutes at a world championship pace. What does that really look like? And how do we assimilate that? You know, if you go down there to the pool, the distance pool there, they've got tow lines where they can punch it in and they'll tow you at a world record pace. Now, I would drown if they did that to me. It would be like waterboarding horizontally, but still, I think that you know, we've got to figure out what that looks like, because if you're climbing Pikes Peak, we may not be that oxygen indebted, but you're climbing this thing, you are going to be oxygen indebted. So, the other thing is we got to look at is a 5-minute summit pace. You know, they say that as you summit Everest, and you get on Hillary Step there at the end, that sometimes that little space of 800 feet takes more than an hour. That means that you're climbing like this. But you've got to pace up. Otherwise, you're not going to summit in time to get back out of the kill zone before dark. So we've got to find a 5-minute pace, because one of the things I've seen on video is that our 5-minute pace at the 5-minute mark, where we were behind in most matches, we were not capable of adding to that enough to make those points happen. So that's one of the things we're going to look at. So what does that require? Well, it requires this, a turning point in the match. You have rising action. Rising action in matches always have a bleed of energy. And if you don't have the energy resources, then you falter. It's kind of what, unfortunately, happened to George Foreman, right? He got punched himself out. So he did a rising action, but unfortunately it didn't turn the tide. He didn't knock him out. So now he had to pay the price for that. Okay? So I'm going to show you another model for that. But there's complications, friction, and chaos. It's all amongst this anytime you start to climb. Doesn't matter if it's a match or a mountain. Okay, right? Any questions on that one? Okay. Again, measurements. We've got to find measurements that says, you know, are we counting reps? Are we counting quality reps? What are we doing that's going to be the measuring stick to find out? Because if we wait until Tokyo to find out whether we got better or not, it's going to be a little late. So those are things we've got to work on too. Coach Hag and myself, this is a great friend of ours, college roommate and teammate of ours, right here, Gary Urban. Climbed it, didn't get to summit. The storm came up, and there's a picture of him taking a picture of the summit. And it looks like it's here to the wall, but it's not. It's a little further. But this storm is bad. And he had it turned down. And he's hurt his lung. He's created some really bad stuff. I'd show you a picture. I know it's too ugly, so I know I'm not going to do it. But when he came off the mountain, he was hurting. And didn't lose any toes or fingers, but came pretty close. So we're thankful that he's here with us. This is him. This is his route. Our job as coaches are being summit coaches. I know that in Coach Linland's case and others that I've talked to try to find out more information about this, is that someone put an Olympic idea in their mind. I failed at 4 trials. I made it to the final trials in 80, 84, 88, and 92, and I failed. I never made a team. And the deal is, though, is that that man that I hired back when I first got there, when I moved from Oak Park to Staley, he was retiring that year, and I called him, and he hung up on me, and then I called him back, and he hung up on me again, and I called him back, and I said, Coach, don't hang up on me. And he said, what do you want? I go, you know what I want. I want you. And he goes, I'm tired. And I said, you're not that tired. So he came on, and he's been a blessing in my life. But I think that when I was younger, one of the things he did was he raised money to send me to Iowa City so I could train with the Hawkeye Club. And he coached against me, okay? Now, how cool is that? Coached me on the summertime team when I was in 7th grade. But then during high school, he coached against me. But he's the guy that raised money. He had a fundraising night. I didn't even know about it. He sent me a check, and he says, go to Iowa City. And so now I want to convert over. So I put a moon in here for my granddaughter, and then mountains, different sizes of them. Because what I'm going to tell you is this, right here. We've had 12 astronauts on the moon, okay, that actually walked on it, okay? 24 landed. One guy stays in the lunar lander, you know that. The other guy gets to walk out and go around on it. 3 of them have driven on it because they drove rovers. We have 8 American Greco world and Olympic champions. So we've spent billions of dollars on a program, and we had to learn things like how do we take a dump in 0 gravity. We didn't know how to do that. We made Tang. We did a lot of neat stuff. Microwave oven. We fixed that too. I mean, there's so many neat things that happened because these guys went to the moon, because John Kennedy stood up at American University and said, hey, we're going to go to the moon in a decade. And everybody went, we're going to do what? We got rockets, we won't get off the ground right now. Then you better find out. That's how I wake up every morning. I got to find out how to build the next rocket that's actually going to get off the ground. I don't know how it's going to happen, but we're going to work until it does. Okay? So, some of the answers are right next to us, right? Women's program, men's program right now, great success. We could sit around and whine about the guy that looks like he's 28 and he's at the cadet wrestling tournament. Got a better bald spot than I've got on the back of my head. Huge arms. Looks like if you shot him with a small caliber, he'd laugh at you. Okay, and everybody looks around and goes, yeah, that's a 16-year-old kid right there. That is not a 16-year-old human. Mimiashvili comes out last week, right? 2 weeks ago, and says, hey, we age cheat. Duh? We age cheat. Really? You age cheat. And now he says, hey, but we're not going to age cheat as bad right now. We're fixing it. Who does that? Mimiashvili does. Putin does, right? So the deal is that this team, though, they're rocking it. And they're taking all comers. Okay? Foreign officials, a couple of them get paid, no problem. We've got guys that are 28 wrestling 18, no problem. Okay? They're still kicking ass. So hats off to them. Great job. You know, I'm sitting up there today in between 2 coaches, and Coach Frazier starts talking, I get verklempt. I'm like, are you kidding me? How cool is that? I mean, he said it. Who thinks that we're going to win the worlds in Greco? About as many as thinks it right now. Okay? But that's what we're going to do. So, figure it out. This guy's a big part of it. We got to have something, have direction. This picture here. These are the guys that scored the most points in Paris. Statistically, I'm telling you right now. Statistically, this is right. This is crazy, okay? And they're all good. They're good. I like officials. I hang out with them. Okay, I like them. But they should not be scoring more points than athletes are. And that's on us as coaches. It's on UWW. It's on, because our sport has been beautiful before, and we have to go back to that. But whether they do or not, we still have to find ways of making it that way. Okay? Now, we're going to play it as it's laid, but still, that shouldn't happen. Because these guys didn't make weight that day. So they shouldn't be scoring that many points. So, but that's one of the things that's wrong with our deal. So here's what we're doing, one of the things that we're looking at. We're taking 6 minutes. What is the most prevalent move at junior and senior world championships on 2 separate lines in the first minute of the match? We're going to find that out. And then we're going to target that. And we're going to find out what the most prevalent moves are in the second minute. And we're going to keep doing that. And then we're going to find out common scores and what those scores look like in early rounds. And we're going to break everything down. It's just taking longer than I thought it would. Okay? So, here's a question for you as we're going through this. Do your athletes know their ability? And I know the other day we did a ladder work with some of our heavyweights, and we found that one of our heavyweights, a full ladder out on a mat, and he made horizontal broad jumps He made it in 3 goes. 130 kilos. I'm standing there looking at it. I'm looking at Coach. I'm looking at Muhammad. I'm like, are you kidding me? So after practice, I grab him. I go, how in the world are you not more explosive? What you just did, large cats would like to be able to do. Okay? So, I mean, and sometimes we introduce our own athletes to what they are capable of doing. But that's our job, right? And how are we going to do that? We have to expand them. Take them out of their comfort zone all the time. And as soon as you start doing that, they're not going to like it, right? They're going to fight back a little bit. And that's okay. So, do you know your athlete's abilities? And if you do, then you start building the things you're in control of, your schedule, your practice plans, based on their specific needs, right? So, let's take a quick look at that sheet that I handed out, a couple of them. This one right here. One of the things that Coach Leonard and myself are working on is this is a basic of what I've seen on film so far that I wanted to go through with cadet, junior, and senior worlds. So I broke it all down and I said this is our starting point. But what we're going to do is we're going to have every one of our athletes will have one of these. Now, if you look at it, you get a little shocked. So just take kind of an eye check back for a second, and I can walk you through this thing pretty easy. But over on this side over here, these 3, that's how you start. Every single time you come in, you either take 2 hands, you put a hand on a rib and a bow tie start, okay? That's what you're looking for, because that's your path to success. Whatever your first contact and tie is, then that becomes your path. But a lot of times I find that when I'm around doing clinics and that coaches don't focus on that enough. We focus on a good setup. Man, we want to hit a setup on our high seat. Well, if you never get your hand wrapped over his tri-tie, how are you hitting that high crotch? I don't know either. As soon as you find out, call me. But the deal is that you can't level change and get through on that. So you need that. And so this is why it's the big box. Then over here, the next thing is the counter. Remember, we're taking on world champions. That's who we have to whip now. We're going to have to whip world champions to make the Olympic team now. That's what's going to have to happen. It's happened before. That man whipped 2 of them. Okay? A bunch of people have done that as Americans. Joe Warren, that's how they qualified. They whipped world champions. So if we're going to take on world champions, these guys are good, they're going to counter you. The second you make a tie, they're going to counter you. Can you work through the counter, or are you going to flee the counter? Coach Lennon wants him to work through the counter, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to counter their move. But we're still going to end up where we want to. 2-on-1, front head hold, and then underhook position. Now, why don't I have underhook a little higher? Well, first of all, because it's hard to get to. At the world level, it's really hard to get to. The other thing is, realize this. I would not attach myself to any of you in this room. You're all bigger than me. I'm not going to walk out and go, let's do an underhook. I'm going to underhook someone larger and more powerful than I am. I'm going to attach my body to you so you can throw me. No. I'm going to 2-on-1 your fingers, what I'm going to do. I'm going to run like crazy. Okay? But I'll score. Okay? So the deal is that you have to find out what works for your athletes. And right now, I don't know that we've got those athletes that want to walk in and get to here yet. Okay? Well, we'll get there. But it's on the chart, so we move up on it, right? And then, these are the things that they can do out of that. And then these are the finishes. Again, if you like chain wrestling, you have to practice chain wrestling. So these are all chains. They start here and they work through. But what we want in the end is what Coach Lindland wants, is he wants artists. He wants people making choices. If I get here, I can go here. Yes, you can, because we're giving you those options. We're not telling you it has to flow even across. Okay? These are your options. These are what we're looking at. But when we see you in competition, and this is your plan, then by God, there better be demonstration that you're following a plan. Because it's your plan. If you're not following your plan, there's a problem. I sit down with high school students all the time. I go through the plan. I'm like, what are you doing here? Your tie is a 2-on-1. Your primary is a head-up single. Okay? You never attempted that in 6 minutes. Not one time. It gives you a starting point to say, you didn't perform well. Okay? So if you have questions on this, please feel free to grab a hold of me, and I'll answer the best I can. On the back, one of the things that I stole off Coach Haggerty is become your own best coach. And this material, these basics that Coach Clayton has given to us, and all these, the 5x5 in those areas, If you get those basics down, what Coach Linley talked about today, you get those basics down, then your kids can start saying, oh, I see what my problem was. When I look at film with them, I expect them to tell me these things. Had my head down, didn't I, Coach? Yes, you did. I'm going to show you how that looks here in a minute. Okay? This last one. This one didn't turn out very clear. Coach brought up mindset. This is out of mindset, Carol Dweck's work. Okay? This summer at one of our cadet camps, we did a 5-day go. We had 2 weeks of camp here in a row. So I just took one day and I made it challenge day, another day obstacle day, another day effort day, another day criticism, another day success of others. And success of others was Friday. Pretty cool day, right? Close out your week. So there's a lot of ways of using this, but here's why it's important. I'm going to show you here in a second why that fixed mindset piece is so important to what I'm going to do here. Every one of our athletes is different. I have 3 daughters. They're all 3 completely different. Okay? James Lord calls it IPS, Ideal Performance State. Coach Frazier calls it Ideal Competitive State. Okay? It's getting to that sweet spot. I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. Yuri Hanen is a Russian. He put out this model saying that if you're in the zone easy, you know, these are the guys that can walk out, drop their briefcase down, crush it, come back and go, okay, Coach, what else? You know, their emotions never go up because their anxiety level is so low. It's down here on 30. Most humans is right here in this inverted U piece. State of anxiety level is 40 to 60 is what you're looking at. But when you get in this 50 to 60, I've coached athletes like this. I know that Coach, you will laugh as soon as I say Shane Nay's name, okay? But I had a young man that he won Fargo. He did some other neat things. He was 4-time state champ. But this kid would never get going until something bad happened to him. But if you did something bad to him, you woke up the lion, okay? Coach Haggerty had a young man named Chianuma. He had 2 of them, but one of them, I told one of my seniors, Chianuma's sophomore year, I said, do not put this kid on his back. Take him down. Don't put him on his back. Because I'd watched him all year long. You put this kid on his back, it's like epileptic seizure until he's back off his back, and normally he ends up with you on your back. We've all had those kids, right? He was that kind of kid. So when we wrestled him, I said, hey, you're not putting him on his back. Just leave him in this zone. Don't put him over here in panic mode, because he'll come out fighting. Okay? So everybody's different. We've got to understand our athletes on that level too. Optimally challenging. We want to find ways of having relationships with our young people that I love the thought of fun, but every time I hear them say, I wrestle for Penn State and I have fun, they're winning everything too right now, by the way. Okay? So, does anybody think they're not working incredibly hard in that room? Right? So, fun, I think if we replaced it, I love that we call it fun, but at the end of the day, most of the time, optimally challenging. If you have a thoroughbred and you're not running that horse pretty hard, they're ready to leave you probably. Okay? If you've got that young person that can barely walk and chew gum at the same time, you probably put his arm around him and send him out there and kind of coach him up and go, hey, Billy, right hand over the back. Your other right hand, Billy, come on. You know, we got to do that with our people. But at some point, this chart is going to look totally different for them, but it should always be to their sweet spot. So, this is called GAS, General Anxiety Syndrome. And this is like if you wrestled the Iowa style. You know, if you did that, what happens is you come in, this is your normal active rate. So what they try to do is they try to stick a rate on you that you need oxygen for. When we're climbing mountains, then we're going to be above the rate of our stress levels, right? The question is, how long can you hold this? When you set up your training cycles, you need to have these dips and valleys where we're going to push the athletes super hard. We have a deal right now we're working out, we're calling it summit work. Coach said we want to try to peak twice this year. We want to peak right before the trials so we get our very best team. And then we got to try to re-peak again as we go to Worlds, right? Well, what does that look like? But prior to that, about 2 months before that, depending on what the science people here come out with, they're telling us what we need to do here. When do we push them to the point where they're ready to stop because they're that tired? That's going to be about 2 months out. But we're going to find out how good they are, and then we'll taper them back off of that. Okay? Risk management. We've got to keep increasing risk management. You know, this photo was taken what year? 72. And you don't even have to be alive in 72 to have known this picture, right? And I always look at people and go, all right, if you could wrestle anyone, would you not want to wrestle Carellen? And if you could do anything in your life, wouldn't this be one of the things on your list? Grab a human that dwarfs you so bad that it puts a shadow through your whole cycle, and then you throw him anyway?
We argue with the Germans about this every day. Because he touched his head and his back.
Yeah. But here's the deal. I gotta tell you, if I was officiating that thing, I think I'm making the same call, because you gotta look at that and go, are you kidding me? What in your right mind said you could do that? So, okay, so anytime that we're taking on the giants, you know, again, we talked about this in this morning's practice, but one of the things we've got to do is we've got to become masters of the upset. And with my high school program, the first award we gave every year was our Upset of the Year award. The student athletes would vote on it. The last award I gave were all the academic awards.